Are we good?
I think so.
You sure?
Yeah.
Let's say live?
Yep.
All right.
You're live.
All right. So welcome to our first Facebook Live event. My name is Sid, and I'm the owner of 360 Home Inspections, and I am joined first with Kim.
Hi, Sid. I'm Kim Wright-Several of the Wright Group at Keller Williams Richmond West.
And we also have Greg with us.
Hello, Sid. I'm Greg Cowart. I'm a mortgage originator. I run a mortgage branch here in Richmond, Virginia with NFM Lending. Happy to be here.
Thanks. I appreciate you guys joining me. We want to do this Facebook Live because there's been a lot of discussion on social media. You know, that's where you get all the legit information from these days in social media.
Of course.
About
very accurate.
That's right. About the shift in the market, right? I think everybody's kind of feeling a little bit of a shift after coming off the roller coaster of the last 2 years with COVID. And for example, there was a article that somebody posted yesterday talking about, like we were just talking about, the loan originations dropping, you know, a certain percentage, which is like the lowest over however many years. And in all those comments, you can get, 20 different opinions from one person saying like, hey, still a good time for buyers, to one person saying, hey, it's a bad time for buyers, right? So because of all this misinformation that's out there and nobody understands what to do with the data and what to do with the numbers and what to make of it, I felt like it would be good just to get on here with two industry experts, because I don't really know what I'm doing because I just spend my days in the crawl space, but to really dive in and what this really means, not just for clients, but also fellow agents, fellow mortgage officers, loan officers, home inspectors, people that's attached to this industry that depends on this market being strong to be able to pay their bills. So with that, we'll go ahead and dive in. And I know Kim has a bunch of numbers, a bunch of information, and going back into the first thing I'll say is that when we start seeing numbers, listings down, things like that year over year, I think it's important to understand that we're comparing stuff to COVID, right? To these COVID years, which was very, very good for the real estate industry. But it was also, I think, can be considered abnormal, because there was just a record pace all the way around. So I think when we start talking about numbers, year over year numbers, things like that, I think it's kind of an unfair comparison of what we're doing this year to last year, because last year was like an exception to the rule, right? So with that being said, I mean, what do you make of what's going on? What are you seeing? What do you think the numbers mean?
Yeah, so we are definitely seeing a shift in the market. And we start as agents, I want to say it's like our spidey senses. You just start noticing little things like, my house is still on the market and it's Monday and that should have sold over the weekend.
Yeah.
Or, wow, like I put an offer on a house and there was nobody else put an offer on this house but my buyer. Right. So things like that start happening and you're like, what's going on, right? So one of the things I think is so interesting in the past 2 years is what's happened is we've sold things so quickly. So the past 2 years with COVID, it's interesting because we didn't sell, it wasn't like we have had less inventory, but if you look at overall numbers of homes we've sold, even historically in the past 10 years, that number isn't down that dramatically. Maybe like 3,000 houses now are like 2,700 of the houses. But it's the speed at which they all sell. So in the past, you'd have homes sitting in the market for 60 days. Back in 2012, that was normal days on market.
Right.
That's a normal sales cycle. Whereas now it's 6 days, and that's even inflated because everyone knows as agents, we're putting homes on markets, we're holding them, getting maximum exposure, and then taking multiple offers. So even at 6 days probably should be like 1 day. Right. So what we're starting to see now is in outlying areas of town, so things that are a little further from the city center, which typically always have a little longer sales cycle, they're starting to slow down. Come Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, they're still on the market after the weekend. They're taking 2 and 3 weeks to sell, and people are panicking, thinking, what's wrong? Nothing's wrong.
Right.
It's just returning back to a normal market, right? Like that's just an area that takes 2 to 3 weeks to sell a house, whereas in the past, everything is sold. I think the other thing we're noticing too is that because everything has been selling, when you don't have any inventory, and a number I love to look at is month supply of inventory, and that is looking at the number of months it would take for every home on the market to sell. And balanced is 6 months, right? So that would take 6 months for home to sell, for homes to sell. Ours, in the past 2 years, has been under 2 months. The past year, under a month. right? So we're at 0.9 right now.
Yeah.
So it's still speedy. So I think when people say, oh, we're in a shift, we are, but I think it's because we have been, like you said, we've been at such an extreme.
Right.
Under a month of inventory for so long, there have not been a lot of choices for buyers, that as more homes come on the market, they take a little longer to sell. People think something's wrong. Nothing's wrong. We're just kind of slowing down. So, I liken it to like if you go 100 miles an hour down the road, then you slow down to 70. 70 is still fast, but it's definitely a lot slower than 100.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, everybody knew, like the last 2 years, the conversation was always, this isn't sustainable, right? This isn't a forever market, right? It's going to change. And now that the shift is here, that change is here, now we forgot about that, right? Now some concerns have set in instead of like, you know what, you're right, we couldn't keep up. We couldn't maintain that pace for 2 years, for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years to make that the normal market.
Right. Like we were seeing increases in some neighborhoods. So, again, real estate is very hyper-local. Mm-hmm. So it's hard to take information that we give and apply it to every home in Richmond. Right. So it depends on what neighborhood you live in. We're very driven by school systems in Richmond, and specific areas could be hotter than others and have a faster sales cycle. And maybe they're still getting multiple offers and they're still having contingencies waived, like appraisals and home inspections, and other areas are returning back to, now as a buyer you can get a home inspection. You can request a home inspection, you can go through with it, you can negotiate that, and it doesn't hinder you going under contract.
And that's also important to, like you said, it's very regional, very hyper local, and everybody's seeing reports from the national level, right? National averages and whatnot. And that's what's important when we start talking about real estate, is that you need to understand what's happening here or where you want to buy, right? So just because it's maybe decelerating greater in California or someplace else, I don't know if that's true or not, but just for example, doesn't mean that we're seeing the same thing happening here, right? So
we are. It just may not be to the same extreme. So you're right. I do think Richmond is, or any area, it is about the local numbers more so, and the neighborhood numbers and the zip code, and there's very specifics. And when you said that, the increase, so for example, in my neighborhood, homes went up almost 25% last year. Well, clearly you can't keep going up 25% every year. I mean, you get to a point, that's ridiculous. So yes, that's not sustainable. And so what I'm starting to see is things slowing down a little bit, and I think we may just see more coming back to more natural, like a 3 to 4% increase year over year, versus I think the national average last year was like 12, 13. Don't quote me on that. I'm but still, around there, not 25%, which is what we saw in some areas here in Richmond.
Sure. Right. So you made a good point when we were talking about this before. Leading up to this, that the numbers for Richmond is still a very desirable market, right? It's still a very people are moving here versus moving away. So what do you see?
Yeah, I there's that saying, follow the money. Like in crime, if you ever want to see what's really going on, follow the money and they'll tell you. And I think we're all forgetting that one of the reasons homes went up 20-25% is because money was put on a 50% off sale. Mm-hmm. I mean, house money went on sale. Yeah. And all right, well, let's go backwards. Did it go on sale because of COVID? No, it didn't. It actually went on sale because our government was so concerned about a stall with something that hasn't happened for 100 years, which was a pandemic, that they flooded the market with money and slashed interest rates. And it was a one-time occurrence. And when a $300,000 house now costs much lower per month, now the client can bid it up to $350,000 or $370,000 because money was on sale. So, in Richmond, not only do we have money going on sale and causing this huge appreciation that we saw, but we've also got COVID affecting the ability to be able to work remotely. Mm-hmm. And as a mortgage lender we talk to anywhere between 100 and 200 families a month. The amount of people from out of town that now that they can work anywhere decided to move to Richmond is shocking. I think it's almost up to a quarter of the folks that were calling me on a monthly basis. So now we've got COVID now allowing more people to flood into the area. Mm-hmm. And really what we're seeing is what Kim said, is that this year looks a lot like last year in terms of the number of people buying homes. Mm-hmm. It feels different. The homes go real quick. there's a lot of emotion because interest rates returning back to normal. You know, as we talk today, interest rates are in the 5s, and historically, since World War II, we average about 6%. So we've got normal interest rates, and we've got a normalizing market, and we've got normalizing appreciation, which in some ways can be viewed as good.
Yeah,
it just feels different.
It feels like someone slammed on the brakes though, because we've been used to going so fast.
Yeah,
but
I think so. Yeah,
and it's interesting because I think when interest rates went up, we really felt it with a lot of the buyers that that we were kind of carrying, that had been looking at homes for a little bit. It really changed their buying power. But I feel like everyone's adjusted. Yeah. I don't know if you would say that's true, but I know people aren't shocked by it now. They know it's between 5 and 6%. It's not that shocking conversation anymore. It's a known thing.
Yeah, and by the way, it went straight up. We have not seen that much of an increase in interest rates in 20 years. Yeah. And it happened. We knew it was coming. So that's the other thing, is we all knew in the industry it was coming. It just happened so quickly. And, the humans need shelter. It's a basic need. And typically that happens not in an igloo in our area. It's a home.
That's right.
You inside. Yeah. And you got to live somewhere. And we've seen rents go up even faster than home prices. And so, Kim, to your point,
yes,
the buyer's got to live somewhere and really doesn't have a lot of choice. The good thing about owning versus renting is that when you own, at least your payment can't go up anymore because your interest rate's fixed.
Right, they're locked
Whereas
in.
with rent, it goes up. So, Kim, I think that you're right. The home buyers have had to adjust to today's interest rates and are ready to keep marching forward because it makes sense to buy a home.
Yeah. So I think that this is one of the points that, and what I hear, not only in it shifting, but people concerned about that we have increased so much, when's it going to fall out? Or we hear a lot as agents, like, we're just going to wait till the market goes back. Right? And kind of like when prices plummet again, or just not, I don't foresee that happening. I haven't heard an expert saying that that's going to happen. And I think one of the things is it's a simple supply and demand. So if you look at our population and who's pushing into the market as first-time home buyers, they're buying later in life at like 33. It's our biggest segment of the population. So we have so many more people that need housing. So whether they need a rental, which we all know is more expensive than buying, and that market has really escalated. They have to live somewhere, to your point, right? Where are you going to live? People have to live somewhere. And it was interesting looking at new family formations. This is a statistic between like 2015 2020, like 1.5 million new families were formed a year. So whether that's through divorce, two people needing their own homes, marriage, people moving out, college, needing a new home, needing to just form their own, having their own home. And we're building about 800,000 houses. So right there you see the problem. They were saying even if we built enough homes, I think they were saying it would take 20 years to catch up if no new people even pushed into the market, which of course we know they are. We even have a bigger group coming behind that still haven't bought yet. So I think that's going to keep the demand high, and that's what simply is, I think, helping, what is keeping our prices at where they are now. And I don't foresee them dropping down.
No.
They've adjusted now, and I don't foresee them continuing to increase at like 12%, 15%, 20%, but I think they will healthy back to, like we've said, normal. 3 to 4% increase, maybe a little bit more about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's important to understand as well, a lot of people see these headlines and these articles, and a lot of it's just clickbait, right? The shock and awe factor of it,
the fear,
yes. Exactly, because that's what drives news. That's not a secret, that's well known that tragedy and chaos drive sales for news cycles. But like we were talking about before we started about the drop, so to speak, in mortgage applications, right?
Yeah.
And like you said, that they're taking the refinance numbers and lumping that in, but we just came from a time where there was like record-setting refinances, right? You talk to loan officers that say, "I've never done a refinance, and I've done 30 this month." So
well, it was almost every home in America needed to be refinanced,
right?
Such that, and by the way, refinances take very much the same amount of energy. They still require an appraisal. They still require a settlement. And so really what we've got that there are a lot of loan people who wake up and just do refinances. Yeah. That's what they do. Yeah. I'm not one. A lot of agents work with mortgage lenders who are focused on helping people buy homes. And so for me, it feels very much like it felt last year.
Yeah.
Just more emotion. For those guys, it has gone to truly someone turned off the water spigot and there's just nothing there.
Yeah.
But that's why this concept like mortgage applications drop by 50%. The fine print is that's because they're assuming they're also counting refinance mortgage applications.
Right.
Yeah, and that's just not part of the normal.
It's a one-time occurrence.
And I think that may slow down. During COVID, a lot of people were moving just because they wanted to.
Yeah.
Because they wanted to. They wanted a bigger home. They wanted to be in a different location, and the rates were so low they could. I don't foresee people just moving just because they feel like it now. It's not like, I wish I had an extra room, so let's go ahead and move. Because right now they're 3%. They're going to buy at what? 5.5%. Like I don't see people doing that unless it's going to be a little bit more maybe need-based moving.
Right, we're going back to we're moving because of a life event.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but keep in mind that there's constant motion. I'll give you two examples. One, we've got a foreclosure moratorium that went down for literally 2 years, which pretty much means that you couldn't foreclose. Well, tragedies happening, bankruptcies are happening, medical issues are happening, and there is a slew of foreclosures that have been held that are getting ready to hit the market. So that's just one example that not all home buying is rate or appreciation driven. I'll give you a second. I have in the past 2 to 3 months been overwhelmed by families buying the homes of older folks who are passing away, needing assisted living, or moving into nursing homes.
Right.
And I'm reminded that we're getting ready to go through the largest transfer in our world's history of wealth as the baby boomers pass into assisted living or pass on to whatever's next. So, even just that movement through the population, that normal movement, is going to create opportunities and home buyers out there too.
I think that's a good point, and that's one of the things I notice the population is that. So I work with a lot of older clientele, and they are really staying in homes longer. We're building homes that are built for all first floor living now, that are low maintenance to no maintenance, and so people aren't exiting their homes, I think, as much as they did before. They're living longer and staying in those homes, which is, of course, I think creating a little bit of a supply, more of a supply issue too. It's just simple population.
Yeah, and then throw on our town being on fire, and this is why if someone says I'm waiting for it to drop, I think you agree too, Kim. It's like, don't wait. It's not going to drop. Now, appreciation, we need it to return to normal levels. And we're hearing that, about 80% of economists say that we'll have a mild recession next year. But, some people I'm talking to that are smarter than me are saying that that's not necessarily a bad thing. We've got major supply chain issues. The transportation, the resources need to catch up. And this is also a natural correction too. But the idea that you're going to see home prices fall like we did in 08, it's just not, it's not going to happen.
Right. And there's a lot of numbers that support that even if we go into a mild recession, the recessions traditionally over the last 100 years last a very, very short period of time. You're talking about less than a year, less than 9 months, in some cases less, 3 to 6 months. So even if we do hit that mild recession, doesn't mean it's like I said, it's not going to be 08 where it took several years for that recovery. It's more of a going back to that slowdown analogy, right, and whatnot. So there's a lot of numbers being tossed around. There's a lot of graphs that are being tossed around, and like we said, I think it's safe to say that you can make numbers say whatever you want them to say, right?
For sure.
So I think as industry professionals, when you're looking at mortgage applications and rates and things like that, you're looking at all the comps and house prices and all the things you look at, I think, and you get clients coming, somewhat scared, somewhat whatever, concerned, I guess. I think it's important as an industry professional to understand what you're looking at and understand what you're comparing to. So I think one of the takeaways from this and just in general is just making sure that moving forward, that you have an understanding, that you can intelligently have those conversations with your clients about what those actually mean, right? Well, they said from last year. Well, last year wasn't normal, right? I mean, so
You're teeing it up for me.
Go for it.
You're teeing it up.
Go for it.
That's exactly what I wanted to talk about a little bit. So is that we are going to return to a really skill-based real estate market. So, the past 2 years, gosh bless, anyone who was a realtor was going to sell a house. And if they didn't sell a house, probably something was wrong, right? It was one of the easiest markets to sell homes as far as getting them sold. Now,
to sell, right? Be on the sell side.
Right,
yeah.
so on the sell side, right? But I think it's going to return to more skills. Right? And I'm noticing this, like you're going to have to do marketing for the property. The property can't go on the market looking kind of like how people just live in it, right?
Yeah,
it's going to have to be prepared properly for the market because homes are being rejected now. We have 177 homes just as of today that just dropped their price. That means the market rejected them at the price they started at. Agents are going to have to start pricing their homes a little smarter. Right, kind of people were just throwing prices on houses, and they were kind of all sticking.
Have those conversations with sellers. Say, hey, look,
they're not all. You're going to have to. They're going to have to really look at the market, and agents are going to have to know their comps and really price well. They're going to have to prepare well. They're going to have to learn how to negotiate again. Right, so there's going to be negotiations that are going to be happening. If you don't have a skilled agent who knows how to negotiate on your behalf, you may end up on the losing end of that negotiation. So I do think we'll see a decrease in the number of agents. I think that's where our market probably will get a little bit of a hit. We have about a little over 7,000 agents, and agents that aren't skilled right now, they're hungry. Right. They haven't closed deals, and I think they'll probably end up getting out of the market. So I think the more skilled agents will do well. And I look at it even just with, and I love listing homes. That's kind of my specialty. So even with selling homes, I'm going to have to start following up with people. Hey, what did you think of the house? I just got my first call from a listing agent the other day. Hey, what did my client think of the house? I'd shown some buyers a home, and I haven't heard from a listing agent, I don't know how long, right? Because they don't have to call us.
Yeah.
They don't have to call other agents because the offers just show up. Well, they're not going to just show up anymore. And it's going to go back to like how you strategically place that home on the market, who your buyer is, how you market to those buyers, how you negotiate them through home inspections and appraisals. Those things will become important again.
Yeah, and there's going to be a transition period, right? Because now, like you said, you got to figure out where to properly price these houses at. Well, where is that? Because again, we're trying to figure out what does that mean because we've shot up, right? The home price shot up so quickly, so fast in a short amount of time. So there's going to be some trial and error there until we start finding that groove of where that comes in.
Absolutely.
Right?
Well, absolutely. And pricing homes is always it's a little bit of qualitative and quantitative, so it's never like because the market's a moving target, right? So we don't control the market. We don't really price homes. We don't say what homes are worth. The market tells us. So, ready and willing and able buyer shows up and tells us what a home is worth, and we're trying to guess in advance.
Yeah.
And good agents can guess pretty well usually.
Right.
And this, I think what people forget is just because it says realtor or whatever it is, or even lender, that doesn't mean that we're blessed with, knowing everything. Our value is the repetition. I mean, Kim, you're a full-time real estate agent who runs a great team. Take the 7,000 people. How many can say that? Well, now it's down to 1,000. And the agent who's seeing on a daily basis and touching and feeling the market is better able to advise their sellers and their buyers what to do. I'll give you an example. We're seeing agents list homes incorrectly, and there's real opportunity. I mean, I'm having agents who are ecstatically saying, Greg, we didn't even have to get waive inspections or appraisal. They totally missed on this listing. The seller freaked out, and they took our offer. I mean, so there's opportunity right now. It's a great time to be working with a professional seasoned buyer's agent and a seasoned listing agent because it is moving so quickly. And whatever is happening, in Hopewell could be completely different than Ashland versus the Fan too. Yeah. So the cream will rise to the top.
Well, and likewise, I think in the mortgage industry, I see the same thing, which is with all the refinancing, we saw like a ballooning of that industry and so many people being pulled in because they just had so many refis. You've got to have eyes and hands on those deals. And so I'm starting to see some kind of more with online or less personal kind of service-oriented financial companies. Like they're really scrapping for business now. Like it's
absolutely.
And I think that's again where the skill is going to come in. Like having a really skilled lender who, it's how important that is.
It is, because, like I said, the last 2 years, if even in the home inspection industry, if you got your license, the phone rang. Right? You didn't have to do anything to go chase business, right? Were there some that were still struggling because we're waiving inspections? Sure. But, I mean, it doesn't matter where we are at. The majority of the markets have said that the response has been the same, like never been busier. And if you either came in or you've never experienced this type of shift or this type of market where it's considered, moving back to a normalized market, then you might be in trouble. From an industry professional, because like we talked about today, you got to start, now it's time to start dusting off like your marketing strategy, right? And if you haven't been doing something up until this point, it takes anywhere from 3 months to 6 months for your marketing strategy from today to start seeing results from it. So you might be in trouble as an industry professional if you've kind of just been waiting for the phone ring,
kind of coasting.
Yeah,
so I call that kind of coasting.
Yeah. If your business plan was, well, I'm just waiting for business to come to me.
Right.
Absolutely.
Because there was a little bit of an overflow, and I would 100% agree.
So while I think the market, like we just talked about, is strong. There's a lot of opportunity for it. I think a lot of experts have said that they predict a strong housing market through 2023, and I think, as a buyer, you should feel comfortable, and as a seller, you should feel comfortable moving forward. I do think that there's going to be some casualties in the industry just because it's oversaturated, and it's oversaturated with a lot of people who kind of, like you said, just kind of been coasting. Mm-hmm. I hope not. I hope everybody, always want to see everybody succeed, but it's just the reality of it. And I've already received phone calls from other inspectors, I don't know. I'm not hitting my numbers like I did last year, which goes back to, well, last year was not normal, right? Mm-hmm. So what were you doing before last year? What were you doing before the last 2 years? And now you may have to start getting back out there and getting these touches with people so they can start remembering you, and like, hey, oh yeah, I remember that word, home inspection.
Just did my first one in like 6 months. Was so happy for my clients to do a home inspection.
So now it's time to get from the field work to the actual business work, and to be able to make sure you
there's the buyers. When you're on the mortgage lender, you deal with buyers. There's been a lot of drama. 2022 has not been easy for home buyers, and there's always opportunity. I am telling my home buyers to get back out there. Mm-hmm. This is a quickly changing landscape, and it does not look like what it looked like back in February and March.
Even just 2 months ago.
Oh,
totally.
3 weeks ago almost.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. This is a great time for buyers. And still a really good time. It's kind of good for both sides right now.
Yeah.
Which I like. It's that win-win, for everyone.
Well, and it's funny because I did read an article a couple days ago. They talked about that first quarter, right? Because the Fed announced that they were going to be raising rates and everything. So everybody was trying. They saw such an uptick in applications for loans and things like that because they were trying to beat that rise in the interest rate. So I think.
And unfortunately, with real estate, January and February, we just don't have as many homes in the market. So the supply is super low at that time. Nobody wants to move in the middle of the winter.
And
that's what it is here.
Prices shot up because there were so few homes.
Yeah.
But this is where I think people miss it, is we don't have families sitting on the side of the roads or in hotels typically waiting for the perfect time to buy a house, like the stock market. Everyone wants to find the bottom and then they're going to buy. People buy homes because of family formation. Transfers, jobs, passing, births, kids leaving homes. And so I don't think, although I think we're all like, what's going on with the market, people buy houses when they need to move.
Exactly.
And it's still a very healthy economy out there, and folks are going to be buying homes. And, I think, like we said earlier, never more important than to talk to a local expert, whether it's lending on the money side or the real estate side, because when that time comes for you, we matter a lot.
Yeah.
And when you're in your home, we don't matter that much. Yeah. But we're here.
No matter, I can never predict the market. And one of the top questions I always get is this a good investment? Is this a good investment, Ken? And that's something and that's a question I love to be able to answer for my clients, no matter what market they're in. Like, is this the best investment for them to make in the moment? And whether the market goes up and down, like, I can't predict whether the home will go up and down, but I can predict how it will move with the market. Like this is a home that will always, when the market's up, is always going to go to the highest. If the market comes down, this home may come down a little, but probably less so than like that area over there.
I see what you're saying.
You know, so
cool.
like, which I think is a good thing for all my buyers.
Well, even in 2008, right, when prices hit rock bottom, where are they today, right? So even if you bought then, you're still in a pretty decent situation, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, historically, right, home prices go up for about 3 to 4% every year, and that's pretty standard and pretty steady.
Yeah, absolutely.
Real estate's a good investment.
It is, and like I said, the core of real estate is life, right? Those life changes and life needs and things like that, and you know, we've moved from generation through generation to where we are now the most mobile generation, and it's just going to keep becoming more mobile. You know, as kids continue to leave home, and those kids become adults, and those adults start to look for home.
Sorry.
So it's no longer like we got 9 generations of our family living in this town, right? No, we have 1 generation and 8 generations in different areas. So, so that's another factor beyond just the typical life cycles that people are going through. Is that the generations coming up, they're just more mobile, and because of technology, we're going to become more mobile. So there's always going to be a need for that.
Yeah,
we're always going to be moving.
But we have, but in this, you know, need it now mentality, we have short-term memory and forgetting that the last 2 years was not normal. So even though we're dropping, you know, some of the numbers are indicating some decreasing. We're slowing down.
I just keep thinking we're just returning to a more normal pace. Is what we're
I wrote that down. Normal appreciation, normal days on market.
Normal days on market, and we're still not even there yet, right? So we still have a little ways to go. It doesn't mean something's wrong with the house. It just could be a normal sales cycle.
It is interesting to see, like, you know, the post of hey, no showings this weekend. You know, what happened? You know, when reality is it's just getting, you know, we got an adjustment period, but it's also just part of, you know, getting back to the way things.
And I will say, here's a quick tip for any agents are watching, which is you get no showings, you really priced your home incorrectly. Unless you're just, I mean, and I think that's across the board. It's priced incorrectly. If you get a lot of showings and no offers, that means your price looks right, but when everyone shows up to your home, when they compare it to others, the other homes have more features, more benefits, more things about the home that make it a better price, and so you don't get offers. So those are buyer behavior, and how buyers show up to your listings tell you a lot about your price, whether the price is right or not. And a good agent will be able to tell you that and explain it to you.
Absolutely. So what would your advice be to your industry professionals moving forward as we do this, as we make this shift?
Gosh, I think educating ourselves is so important, staying on top of what's happening in the market. Like, I love to look at the numbers. I pay attention to, you know, talking to other top agents, what's happening in their business, you know, staying on top of, as the market shifts, you know, looking at more lead kinds of things than lag numbers. You know, lag numbers are the closing prices, like lead numbers, you know, like how many homes, I don't know if I'd be kind of how many homes are coming on the market, but for us, it's like our pipeline. That's our lead, like what's coming up. And those things are, I think, really important to look at. And then just sharpening your own skills. I think agents in particular are going to have to probably work a little bit harder for the same amount of money, or maybe a little bit harder for a little bit less money. And that's just the reality of what happens in a shift. But I think it's an opportunity for agents who are really willing to do that to gain market share. That's the truth of it, because there will be people who don't want to work hard who will leave.
Absolutely. So with you, there's obviously a lot of, and I've seen it in a couple groups, real estate mastermind groups of loan officers getting on there and kind of like, hey, you know, be nice to us, right? Our applications are down. Our application, you know, we're concerned, we're worried, but like you said, I mean, we're just kind of, you know, shifting through the numbers. We're okay, right? So what would your advice be for those in your field that may be a little unsure about moving forward?
You know, I think that when money's half off, you lose your touch a bit. ARMs, adjustable rate mortgages, which the better way to say ARM is a fixed rate, shorter fixed rate mortgage. They're coming back. There's products, lock and shop, coming back. I think similar to what Kim said, you're going to have to wake up and be a student again and really look at as rates go up, you'll see more and more unique products come out and more unique combinations come out. So I think it goes back to, the early bird gets the worm, kind of those who get out there and work hard, like you said, even with the home inspector world, are going to be rewarded. And I don't know if that really changes. This industry keeps us all very humble.
Yeah.
Because, first of all, you're a zero every month.
Yeah.
You're always, every month you're zero, and whatever worked for you 6 months ago won't work for you today. I think in terms of what I would say as well is what I tell my staff, which is slow down to speed up. And what I mean by that is that we've got to take more time with our clients, and the clients have to slow down too, because when they see the house they want, in order to win, they've got to move super fast.
Yeah.
And the only way you're going to be comfortable super fast making a decision on $500,000 is to have all your ducks lined up, know your numbers, know the market, have your agent coach you, have your lender coach you, so that you can win. And we're seeing our folks win a lot, but they're not winning because they're lucky. They're winning because they put in the time, and their team put in the time to do the hard work.
And they listen to those who know what they're doing.
And they hired local experts. Absolutely.
A
So
good strategy like that is just key.
Yeah.
And it's become even more key, I think, as we move forward.
And probably will, even more so going forward, which is where the best of the best will thrive in this market. And I think those who do this on the side, on the inspector side as well, will struggle.
Yeah, absolutely. From the home inspection side, it's just time to.
Yeah, what are you seeing? What would your advice be to?
It's time.
He invites the two chattiest people to do a live with.
We'd like to ask you a question.
Of course, not getting anything in.
No, I think from the home inspection side, I was on a call the other day just talking about what to do in a slowdown market, and the advice given is sound advice, and it's time to tighten up your budgets, right?
Yes.
Because the money's not going to be free flowing like it was, so you got to tighten up your budgets and really be strategic about where you spend your money, and some of that involves marketing, right? And sometimes in the home inspection industry, it's time to evaluate marketing, and if you've never done marketing, it's time to start learning. And if you haven't started developing that strategy, you're already 3 months behind because the shift is taking place. So we've figured out a way, fortunately, is on how to bring, I don't want to say bring agents to us, but that's kind of what we've been doing, with some of the CE classes and some of the things we've been doing. So so we don't have to spend as much money in marketing because we've been very strategic about how we do that. So it's time to really look at your profit and loss sheets, figure out what you absolutely have to spend on, and start having those conversations with your teammates. If you own a team, if you own a company, multi-inspector company, and say, hey, look, it's looking good right now. There may be a slowdown. And while we adjust, so we may have to adjust with it, right? But I think it really comes back to that in-person building relationships, getting back in front of people, and the hard work of building a business. So that's what I would say in the home inspection world. That's if you've not been good at that, then like you said, you may not be around in a year. So it's time to start being a business person, not just a home inspector.
Interesting. Same thing. I mean, I feel like you've listened to all three of us talk. It's like the same. The same things that we're going to all be doing, which is like us out. Like I can see already on our team having to do more outward things versus things coming to us. We're going to have to be the ones to reach out and really do the work of lead generation and getting hold of clients. Absolutely.
So with that being said, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I'll go with real estate's local. Here we are. There are national companies moving into the realtor space, and there's definitely national companies moving into the lender space. Your best results will come from somebody who's doing what they do a lot and is doing it locally, because they can give you the best advice to get the best outcome.
All right.
Yeah. I would say the same thing, right? You want someone, when it comes to real estate, you want somebody very skilled. I don't care how many videos you watch or things on social media you read about. There's nothing like finding an expert who works in the market, who knows the other agents. Relationships matter in the Richmond market, a whole lot in the Richmond market, and having an expert who really knows what's happening here, that can protect your best interests. And no two clients are alike. It's not like you just go out and buy a house and just buy a house. There's a lot of things that go into it. And so I think having an expert that can really guide you along that process, and asking your agent tough questions. If your agent can't answer tough questions and you don't feel like is responsive, don't stick with them.
Yeah.
Right? It's okay to switch.
Yeah.
And I think that's something I hear a lot of when deals have gone wrong with clients who've come to me after the fact, and they're a new client of mine. It is we never really hit it off with that person to start, but we felt obligated to stick with them. And I'm just going to say, don't feel obligated. It's if you go into a restaurant and they serve you a bad meal, you don't keep going back.
Yeah, that's great advice. Yeah.
Find someone who you work with. This is a team. This is it's a team sport. And these two guys are on my team. They're experts I lean on and rely on every day in my business. And same thing for buyers and sellers. You want a really strong team of people that are going to help you get the results you want.
Yeah.
Yep. I would say if you're in the industry or an industry associated with real estate, and get a mentor. If you find yourself struggling with this stuff, feel yourself being kind of in the weeds and kind of lost with all this stuff, find somebody. I mean, all three of us, consider team leaders. You run your own team. You run your own team. But you're also...
You boss Courtney around.
I boss Courtney around.
The other way around.
That's right. Yeah. But just within Keller Williams, you sat on the leadership committee, and people come to you for questions and advice, and I'm sure the same thing for you. People are calling and contacting you to help them navigate. We're not in this alone, and especially as a team leader, there's not a lot of people that can say that. And it's a different responsibility. So there's different rules attached to that on how to manage it. So not everybody understands that. So if you're leading a team and you got the proverbial mouths to feed, and you're concerned, find somebody who's been there, and find that mentor. If you're a single agent, a single inspector, on your own as a lender, find somebody that can help you grow. Invest that money, even if it costs money, because that's a great return on investment. You find the right person that can help mentor you and train you. So with that being said, I appreciate you guys coming in. I will be mindful of your time. I know Kim's got a bunch of appointments that she's got to go to. I'm sure Greg's got a bunch of phone calls to return from needy agents.
Friday afternoon,
Making offers.
So, being Friday, I appreciate you guys coming in and making time. So this was a lot of fun. So.
Yeah,
this
these
is
are
great.
fun. Thanks for joining us.
Right. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Are we done?